Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. It is November, because, you know, I think I'm taping in October. One of my favorite people in the world, Jessica Gillis, is here with her friend Oscar and her guide, Oscar. Should I say friend? Does he have a desire for me to call him anything?
That's funny. He's showing friend. Friend will be just fine.
I love that. Okay, dear. Wow. 2022 has been a ride, hasn't it?
Oh, buddy. Wow.
Oops, sorry. Everyone that heard the train horn, that was my sister texting me. And now that's off. That's how I know it's her, because the train horn scares me to death. So and you have so much information to give. I'm probably going to jump right in. Folks, the Patreon, join the Patreon. I think I put up a sample episode. The tarot classes are going great. I really want to expand that. Watch for more club dates. In December, I'll be back at Wisecrackers in Pennsylvania. Okay, so Jessica, should we jump right in?
Yeah, I'm honestly curious about how I'm even going to start the information that came through, because it's a lot, and I'm like, can I actually portray this without diagrams? But I think I can.
Okay.
I think I can do it.
I'll backtrack you if anything seems confusing. All right.
Yeah, it probably will seem confusing. And again, the information is very, we'll say it's new to me in the last 3 years, but figuring out how to talk about it is, it's a whole other ordeal. So, immediately I'm watching him show up, Oscar show up, and I think he's very willing to walk me through how to discuss this. So what I wanted to talk about today was kind of the structure of our reality.
Love it.
Yeah, and it can get a little complicated in terms of actually understanding, but man, where do I start? Okay, so it's funny. He says, start with me. Okay, so I'm sure most people have heard of the Tree of Life. Mm-hmm. When you think of the Tree of Life, what do you think of?
I immediately go to the 10 of Pentacles and Tarot.
10 Pentacles and Tarot.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and that makes a lot of sense because it's kind of this highest state of physical. The Pentacles are very, very physical, very... we think of them as earth, money, energy, physical aspects. So if I were to paint a picture of the Tree of Life, and if people want to visualize it as this kind of blue, glowing, gorgeous tree in the very center of our reality, then we would see concentric rings around that tree being the many realms that have emerged, and oh God. Okay. So yeah,
you're doing great. And it's actually, I have exactly what you're talking about in my mind.
Okay. So he's actually reminding me to start with him. So if we think of Polaris being the North Star, the guiding star, start to kind of imagine that Polaris itself is that Tree of Life.
Okay.
So sit with that. And we think about Polarians being the very first entity that ever existed. So they call themselves the root race. So what the Polarians did was they, through the Tree of Life, gave birth to these concentric circles around the Tree of Life. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Seeing that Tree of Life as a glowing ball of light, imagining it also kind of behaving as a bit of a diamond.
Okay.
So as light moves as energy and information comes into the Tree of Life, it will fractal and ripple out color, information, matter. So if we think of our universe as, oh my goodness, it's so hard to speak these things, but it's not hard in my head when I look at it, but it's hard to bring words to it.
I'm not having any trouble following you at all.
Good. Oh my God, that's amazing, because I'm having trouble following me. So
keep going, and I'll stop you where it gets confusing.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, I have my notes. One second. Come here, notes. So if we were to look at the very first ring that the tree produced, that would be what we could look at. And this is kind of moving in towards a symbol that a lot of people might not resonate with, but it would be the first Garden of Eden.
Okay.
So within that first Garden of Eden was the first very physical race, which we will refer to as, if I can find the piece of paper, I think they're called the Hyperboreans. Hyperboreans. So the Hyperboreans would show up as, just in terms of like the physical attributes, we're thinking of people with very, very dark skin or indigenous people.
Okay.
On that very first ring. So for the Hyperboreans, just give me a second here. When they first emerged, the way that we want to look at this is that they would have one single planetary body while they are the Garden of Eden. One single planetary body that would be a combination of their sun and their moon. So one second here. Is that making sense so far?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let me just look here. So they would have one single planetary body acting as a combination of the sun and the moon, kind of helping to harmonize that space.
Okay.
And then through, I think it's every 26,000 years, a new ring is pushed out. Oh. So currently we have 5 rings around the tree of life. So we have 5 different aspects, or what we would call, so Oscar refers to those beings as aspects. What we would kind of call them in modern day would be something akin to like races. Mm. So what we've got is the Hyperboreans. So we're thinking people from Africa. We're thinking people, the indigenous cultures, like the Polynesians, like the people of South America, like the people of North America. So I want you to kind of consider that as this ring, this outer space. And then the next ring that came forward were the Lemurians. So the race associated with Lemurians would be the Asian or Oriental people. So that encompasses a large, wide range of different people and different cultures. Then the second, or the next ring that came forward would be the Atlanteans. And we all know the Atlanteans. So those would be predominantly at their very beginning, okay, we'll get into this. So at the very beginning, the Atlanteans, we would consider them today as like the Indo-Asians. So like Afghanistan, India, all of those kind of Indo-Asian countries.
I like to date.
Yes, of course. You're attracted to the Atlanteans.
Yes.
So then the one closest to the tree of life right now, and there is no hierarchical order of how these things run. There's no better or worse. They're all completely equal. They're just different aspects being born and birthed through time. The ring closest would be the Aryan ring. Right now. So we're thinking very European. He's pointing directly to like Russia. Yeah. So he said the coast and then showed me like the UK and then moving inward. So right now, just because of, I understand. Okay, cool. I know where he's going with this. So what we're looking at in terms of this model that I'm using to describe, we would want to drop down into the 2D.
Okay.
We would want to see the Earth as a flat circle with, he said, not just the Earth, all time and space as a flat circle, with the tree of life in the very center of the core.
Okay.
I'm all of these rings.
So I kind of love this. There's literally a book called Flatlands that explains dimensions by starting with a piece of paper. I'll do this really quick for you guys. So Flatlands starts with a piece of paper and a sphere comes through that paper, but the people on the paper don't see the third dimension. So all they see is a dot that turns into a wide line and then turns back into a dot. Did that make sense?
Yeah. And I was actually told to read that book. I have that book. I have not read that book, but an incredible mathematician and someone actually working on artificial intelligence told me I need to read that book. So maybe I should read that book.
Well, it's exactly what you're describing. So I don't know if you need to read it.
Yeah, you're right. But I've heard it's a great book. So maybe I should just let myself read.
I'll see if it's on audio. Okay, I'll get it. Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to
my God. I love a good audiobook.
Yes.
So what we're looking at here is that the predominant expression on the planet right now is still Atlantean because of genetic mixing, because of people moving through different continents and travel and all trade and kind of globalization. We're looking to see that most people within the genetic structure, we're going to be kind of looking at them as Atlantean. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure why, but that is what I've been told. And I don't actually know if I fully agree with that, but he's showing that that is where a lot of the inherited prejudices against each other arise from, is that Atlantean race.
White people, right? I was just going to say, if it might be coming through mostly, I swear, well, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like we do most of the damage on the planet. Like,
yeah. So when we're thinking about these races, it's really hard to not put skin color to it, but let's attempt to back that off a little bit, because when we think about the Aryan race and think about like everything that happened with the creepy Hitler Holocaust stuff, that very Aryan, right? So they're also a predominantly lighter skinned individual, and yeah. So, but yes, Atlanteans. When we want to remember the beginning of the Atlantean race, that's going to be coming into the Indo-Asian.
Okay.
So in Indo-Asian, like if you look at the variety of skin color throughout people in all the Indo-Asian areas, you can see people that look like they could be from Russia. Like there's a lot of similarities in that skin color thing. Like when we think about the Hyperboreans, we have people with very, very dark skin. We have indigenous people with very dark skin, but some people that are indigenous have lighter skin. So we really want to attempt to let go of a little bit.
Got it. Yeah.
And I'm not telling anyone to disregard the cultural
things. We're not offending
right
anyone. We're talking a spiritual conversation. And also, wouldn't white or lighter skinned people be predominant on the earth right now?
To a certain
Canada, United
degree.
States, UK, Russia, Ukraine. It's kind of a lot.
Yeah. And he's saying he's going to talk a little bit about so he's saying we'll get to it.
Okay.
I thought he was going to give me information, and then I hear we'll get to it. So what we want to understand about these rings is that they all operate like time is cyclical. So we think we've got our spring, summer, fall, winter. We've got our morning, midday, evening to night, nighttime to morning. All of these things are very, very cyclical. And just in that same way, we've got our Bronze Age, our Iron Age, our Bronze Age, our Silver Age, and our Gold Age. And that's what we really want to kind of look at here. So this notion pulls in everything around astrology that you could ever imagine. So if we were to just specifically focus on the Atlantean ring, okay, cool. He's interrupting me. Thank God, because I really wanted him to bring this up. So we're looking at this two-dimensional space. If we were to allow ourselves to inhabit where we actually are perceiving, we're in a three-dimensional ball. So all of those rings start to form a round sphere.
Got it.
So here we are on this global sphere. And what we want to look at here, if we were to just really go into the Atlantean age, about 6,000 years ago in the Atlantean age, they hit an epoch. So they moved into the age of Taurus 6,000 years ago. And you can see this when you look at the Old Testament. So remembering that all of those things are a weird record that has been skewed and twisted in many different directions for power. But that was within the Old Testament 6,000 years ago was the worship of the bull. And that was the age of Taurus. So those things coincided.
And now we're in Aquarius, right?
Yeah. So 2,000 years. And it says this again in the Old Testament, where Abraham was told to stop worshiping the bull and sacrifice a ram instead. Then we moved into the Middle Ages, which is the age of Aries. That was 4,000 years ago. And then 2,000 years ago, we entered into the age of Pisces. which age of the fish, the age of the prophet, blah, 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 blah. We all know that that was not our favorite. So then we just moved into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of mixing, disclosure, discovery, and technology. So when we think about the idea of an epoch or an apocalypse, that's a shift from it's the end moving into a new beginning or the lifting of the veil. So how am I doing so far?
Good. I'm pretty sure I'm on board. Keep going.
Okay, so we know that that big event happened just before 2020 where all of those planets aligned.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have all of these rings, we're going to back up a little bit. And because my brain is freaking out that I'm even talking about this, we're gonna drop in, and I'm just gonna quickly look at because I just cannot for the life of me trust my brain right now. Here we go. Planets. Boom. Okay, let's see. No, that's plants, Jessica. Planets. We like both of those things, but
we do.
Okay. So here we go. Give me the planets. Oh. All right. Let me see if I can actually get a picture of them. There we go. So what we're going to want to look at in terms of the Aryan sphere, the one that's really, really close to the new Garden of Eden, when we're looking at the sun and the moon for that space, that's going to be Mercury right now. So Mercury, a smaller planet, very condensed. As the epoch shifted outward for the Atlanteans, their single body split into Venus and Neptune. So their moon being Venus and their sun being Neptune.
Oh,
does that make sense?
It does.
Oh, actually, I'm wrong.
It doesn't.
We're going to drop back a little bit.
It doesn't not make sense. So, in other words, instead of we're starting with this sphere that everybody's sort of circling in, and then everybody is kind of breaking off into a different sun and moon, then the sun and moon.
Yeah, exactly. So, he's showing, if we were to think about it astrologically, if you were predominantly of a certain realm, so if you were Lumerian, then the Lumerian sun and moon are going to have more of an impact on your physical body than Apollo and Artemis. Artemides? What's our moon called? Artemis. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the Atlantean realm, we have our sun Apollo and we have our moon Artemis. And then in another realm, they have their sun Saturn and their moon Jupiter. And one thing that's really important about this realm is when time really became a construct that we were really grasping onto. And we can understand that through Greek mythology because Saturn is Cronus, who is kind of that god of time.
Okay, and
right?
I'm gonna we're gonna take a break in a second, but two things that might actually recap this, or it could be totally wrong. So, almost saying their sun and moon is almost kind of like their now north node and south node, or am I wrong on that?
He's showing
okay.
Interesting. Let me say.
So the way that we get our light from the sun. So instead, these people would get their light from Venus or Mercury, like that.
Yes, he's showing technically, but he wants everyone to remember the idea of dimensions. And if you are residing within a certain dimension, you are not going to be viewing something outside of that dimension in its true nature.
Okay. Got it.
In the realm that it exists in. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And let me give an analogy for that. That's why people, this is really wild, but I think I'm on target. I think Oscar's helping me. Help you. That's why a different dimension is a spirit, which is why we don't always see them exactly as us. We see parts of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that was his response, not mine.
Okay.
I got to clarify that all the time. So, when we look at what's going on here, give me a moment.
Yes, actually, let's take a break. We'll be right back. And hang in there, folks. This is excellent.
Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Innerstandings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.
All right, we're picking up there. Go ahead. When we talk about astrology.
Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about astrology, we're really personalizing it these days. And if we were to allow ourselves to really expand out, we're going to notice a whole other cycle that we're intricately a part of. So Oscar's really coming in super strong, wanting to remind everyone that as you were talking about spirits being in another dimension, he's wanting to remind everyone that at their deepest core of what they are, as we kind of move through this discussion and this description of everything, at your deepest core of what you are, you're a part of the root race. You are attached to Polarian. You came from Polarian, and Polarian, dropping into the idea of polar, dropping into the idea of the dual nature of our reality. So the masculine, the feminine, conscious awareness, information, energy, light. So at your deepest experience of the nature of reality, you are not a being experiencing the field. You are the field experiencing a being. And this is just how it's expressing itself, learning and evolving. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I liked the way you said it. You are not a being experiencing
the field.
You are the field. Perfect. That's sort of the we are all one. We are all one consciousness, right?
Exactly. And that would be the first dimension.
Ah, okay. And I like that we, so we all kind of, so in other words, when he was saying we're all from the root race, that means one isn't better than the other. We all started out in the same place.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the evolution in terms of time just has a different order. It just has a different order.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we look at kind of where we're sitting right now in the Atlantean realm, and this is where I get a little bit confused with it myself, because we're in the Atlantean realm, but when we move up to the 3D, we're all on this sphere together, and it's all kind of intermingling and overlaying. So thinking of the idea of being in the Atlantean realm as more of a state of consciousness than anything else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that information, we're looking at the Aryan race is currently in a Bronze Age. So being in the Bronze Age is quite barbaric. So if we are looking at kind of we'll call it the white people causing a problem thing,
okay,
the colonial nature of reality, that is those people. So they're in a bronze state of consciousness. They're very barbaric. They're very greedy. They're very animalistic. They will go forth and cause genocides. They will do horrible, horrible things because that is their level of consciousness. So right now with the age of Aquarius, the Aryan ring is moving into a silver age. So conscious awakening. And that's kind of why we're seeing all these people wake up.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And here's another place I'm going to put that. I would say what you're talking about, the Bronze Age, is almost our politicians or the people that will do anything for money and they don't care who they hurt. Correct?
Exactly. So it's above the Iron Age. The Iron Age is like medieval shit, but the Bronze Age is a little bit better. So then when we look at the Lumerian ring, currently right now what's happening with the Lumerian ring is they are falling from a golden age, and this fall has been happening for like the epochs don't just kind of spring forward and happen right away. Like the Age of Aquarius song came out in the 60s. Like the movement towards psychedelics and technology has been building for a long time, and we just popped into the Age of Aquarius recently, so there's a bit of a build up. So if we look at the Lumerians, they're actually moving or having a fall from their golden age into an iron age. So if we were to kind of look at how the dictatorship in China is behaving, the class system that's being implemented, how the people are being treated, we can see that happening.
Right. Okay.
It's not great. So the Hyperborean people, so we're looking at people that are predominantly what we would consider these days as indigenous. So the indigenous people of Australia, the indigenous people of Africa, of South America, North America, they are moving from a gold age into another gold age.
Okay.
So that's really, really good for them. So we're thinking of the idea of, on this planet, we're going to call them the wisdom keepers.
Boy, does that resonate with me. And I'm going to tell you, in this split, which I think is coming, I'll just throw this in. I think a split is coming with mankind, like from technical people, like we're all technical people, we all get computers and stuff, back down to grow your own food. Those two splits, I love the wisdom keepers in that context.
Yeah. So then when we think about where the majority of people that we would know being in the Atlantean realm, they're actually moving from their iron to their bronze.
Can I throw in something weird that, okay, because we're getting weird. I had this discussion with someone. So there's a huge amount of Native American women just disappearing. Whether they're kidnapped or whatever. And I almost wonder if there is something about trying to, like, somebody's trying to do away, like, of course, it's a conspiracy, a big thing. Somebody's trying to do away with that original race.
See, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think that's been happening since they started colonizing the land, and they're just doing it in a really creepy, quiet way now.
Maybe. Okay, good. You made me feel better on that, because I feel like it's okay. I got to do a thing on that, especially up here.
Yeah.
And it's quite a, there's a guy on TikTok I keep trying to get a hold of, because this doesn't, for whatever reason, whether they, and if you were to say they are the wisdom keepers, which kind of sounds like they are, there you go. You know, this is, okay, go ahead. Sorry, now I'm off on a tangent. Now I got mad.
No. You're absolutely okay. So if we think about the fact that the Hyperborean people have been in existence the longest, it would make sense that they would have gathered this wisdom, because they've gone through so many different iron, bronze, silver, gold ages. They've gone through it so many times that within their genetic lineage is all of that information for going through these experiences so many times. So Oscar also wants to correct. He's showing that it is not quiet what they're doing. It's not quiet the way Indigenous people are being treated, but the majority of people are so indoctrinated into ignoring that or thinking it is just par for the course, that their consciousness doesn't let them feel and emphasize with what level, if they were more aware, they would be.
That's very interesting. He said empathetic level. And I don't want to, you're another one of these people that I'm so connected to that I cannot ignore that we are doing this today. And there is, okay, I wonder if I should wait till the end with this. Are you on a roll?
Oh.
Do you want me to not interrupt you?
No, you should definitely interrupt me.
This is very weird, and it's about me. I know we're talking about bigger things than me, but I'm currently looking for a dog. And every time I go online to just look at Chihuahuas or Papillons or some sort of small dog abuse comes on. And I'm not going to say anything else, but something came on. I was having a great day today, having a great week. I just had a great show last night, and something came on that I couldn't breathe. I had to get out of the house. It was so awful to look at. And I was like, that's it. I'm not getting a dog. I can't, I can't handle pain on like when you were just saying the level of empathy. I think this is sort of where woke is going too far, because they're so sensitive. But it was like, I don't know. It was a video, and there was hundreds of thousands of views. And I was like, why didn't anyone to tell this person to take this video down? Why is this horrible thing coming up? And the person wrote, now I'm traumatized now that I saw that. And I thought, well, now you traumatized the rest of us. But it went so deep, that pain went so deep that I was almost like, oh, Oscar has time for a question after. But when you're talking about people not having that empathy, I think you're right. And I'm actually very worried that the world is not going to wake up, because instead of looking at this and going, why are so many Native American women disappearing? It's like, we should go to the movies.
Yeah. And he's showing that you'll notice this kind of all over the globe, pertaining to many different cultures that are moving through painful experiences. Like the farther away from it you are, and the most desensitized you are, it's going to kind of lead to apathy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's showing we've got empathy on one side, apathy on the other. You want to have them in balance, because if you take on all the pain in the world, he's showing literal depression will cause, depression will happen within your body. And if you are apathetic, you won't be able to connect with anyone.
Well, yes. Okay. Thank you. That's a good. And the first thing that happened was I felt courage come onto my chest, and he kept saying, Mom, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. And those two had a contract, and it had something to do with someone not being present. So there was a big explanation, which logically I can go to, but every time I get upset, because it keeps coming back to me, courage comes in and says, it wasn't me. That wasn't me. I don't know if that makes any help or sense. But
it makes perfect sense. And also, Oscar won't stop saying that you don't have to search too hard. She's going to come to you.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So he's showing be open. It doesn't mean don't look, but be open, and she'll come to you when she's ready.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we're moving back towards the idea of astrology again. Maybe moving back towards the idea of astrology. Maybe he's taking me in a different direction. Where are we going? Okay. Mm-hmm.
I will do that again. Yes. I threw you way off. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's perfectly okay. So, is beautiful. Thank you, Oscar. Okay. So he's showing the idea of not really being able to see, feel, or touch the pain of people that are predominantly existing in another realm has to do a lot with kind of the magnetic field structure between those levels of consciousness, if that makes sense.
Kind of. Let's give me a little more on that. So not being able to feel the pain of a spirit in another dimension. I know that's the easiest way for me to look at things, or another being, or an alien, or something like that, or aliens not being able to feel our pain.
So, beautiful. So not even the idea of aliens. So when we're thinking about aliens here, he's wanting you to think of the rings that you are not consciously standing on as extraterrestrial.
Okay, got it.
So if a being that is operating within the Atlantean ring ends up in the hyperbolic ring, like a colonizer moving from Europe to North America, they might not consciously be able to view someone of hyperborean descent as a being, as they will not see their humanity, they won't see their spirit. And he's showing this is not an excuse for horrific behavior ever. It's not an excuse for horrific behavior. I'm not giving that example. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I was not doing that. Oscar's trying to get me canceled. I don't like that. Just kidding. It wasn't that bad. It just felt very too simplistic. So what we want to kind of understand within the astrology is that it really is dictating and impacting the rings differently. The same way that the astrology will impact the individual differently. So you've got your Saturn next to your sun, and someone's Saturn is the opposite side of their sun, and something's happening with Saturn. It's going to show up differently in your world.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me see where we're going next. Okay, so with the Atlanteans moving from the Iron to the Bronze Age, as I was saying, so most people that were aware of kind of the dominant mindset on the planet right now is, he's saying the dominant mindset within the culture that we're standing in, you, me, a lot of the world, kind of the technological, focused, fixated, consumeristic culture, being the Atlanteans. Moving from iron to bronze, they're awakening. And he was stating that when the Atlantean civilization, when the Atlantean people fell from their gold age into their iron, that was the fall of the Atlantean Empire that we all talk about, that we all hear about.
Okay.
So that was that. So, and what happened when that occurred? I want you to think about this. So the Atlantean Empire was the closest ring, or not the empire, sorry, Oscar. The Atlantean ring was the closest to the Tree of Life, and then the Tree of Life rippled out or fractaled out the Aryan, and that is when the Great Flood happened. Because in between each of these rings, it can either, it's water, right? Water is life. It's kind of the holder up of all of the rings. So when that moves out, the one closest to it usually has a massive fall.
Now, water, when he's saying the big flood, it means what they would call in the Bible Noah's whatever ark.
Yeah, the Great Flood, the Great Flood.
And now look at how much trouble we're having with water.
Yeah. Oh, so much trouble with water. And recognizing that people will say that, oh, the Christians stole the idea of the Great Flood from the Egyptians. No. When where are they? What were they called? When the Lemurian race had to move back and push back in the ripple because the Atlantean was coming in, that was their Great Flood. And if we drop back even deeper, when the Atlantean or when the Lemurian realm was born, the Hyperboreans had their Great Flood.
Wow.
So there's been more than one, is the way we want to look at this. And if we were looking at it from a 2D perspective, we got the Tree of Life in the middle, the Aryan ring around it, separated by water and or ice, think Ice Age. And then we drop down into the Atlantean realm, surrounded by water. We've got our oceans that exist between our land masses. Push that back out farther. We've got our Lemurian realm, surround it with water. Even farther out, we've got our Hyperborean realm. And we hear people from the Atlantean colonizer type societies speak about reaching the end of the world, like going to the final frontier, exploring all the way into the Hyperborean realm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That would actually make sci-fi make sense.
Yeah, so now we shift back into our three-dimensional view, and we look at the history of the last 2,000 years. And Oscar's asking, he goes, so just look, and he's showing me symbols, but I can't give the symbols to the podcaster. Oh my God. So when we're looking at kind of that crossing those oceans, the reason that that became doable was because of the age that the Atlantean civilization was in. So they found that technology to build those ships to do all of this movement, right? Is this all making sense so far? Do you have any questions?
I don't actually. I feel like it was funny when you were describing the rings. I thought of Star Trek, which I didn't really watch, but I figure Star Trek would be a story that takes place between the rings.
See, I need to watch Star Trek to know.
We could say Star Wars, whatever. It's sort of, yeah. I don't really watch. I've never seen an episode of Star Trek either, but it feels like that's what it feels like to me.
So good. Beautiful. We're getting into, thank God he always keeps me on track and keeps it moving. So if we come back to the great event that happened in December of 2019, when all of the planets aligned, if we all want to remember that, when that happened, the field and the kind of veil between all of these places, all of these rings, lowered. And that's when you started hearing people start talking about timeline jumping. That's when you started hearing people about shifting their consciousness, their awareness to another timeline. That was a massive opportunity to have this big shift. And when those planets all align, it's very rare. I think it's every 24,000 years. What happens is usually a massive solar event. So this is what I've been shown. It is not necessarily my belief, but we're going to talk about it. So when that happened, and I will reference that I saw this happening before it happened, the whole COVID thing happening before it happened in 2020. February 2019, I went down and did ayahuasca. She showed me it happening, and she showed something coming in and hitting the planet and rippling around it. And when we look at COVID and its actual symptoms and the way it impacts the nervous system and the lungs, it has a lot of similarities with radiation. A lot of similarities with radiation. And the way that they said it would spread, like I've been around people with COVID. I did not get COVID. It just seems to spread in very, very strange ways.
Yes, and very picky, sort of. Yeah.
Very picky. So all of these different versions of COVID, he's showing, if we think of them as little information packets hitting all of these evolutions of COVID. And it's interesting, he's showing that we have a misconception of kind of the viral and bacterial world. We misconceive it because of our very materialistic views on our realm. So what he's showing here and what I learned about, and I will just preface that all of this information, he was talking to me about it, constantly talking to me about being from Polaris, being an electron, being the root race, da-da-da-da-da. I've been hearing about that forever from him. And then this video would not stop popping up in my YouTube feed, and he would be like, click it. And I would, no, because it just looked like a flat earth video. And so eventually I smoked a bit of weed and I clicked it. And all of this information was there. And I don't agree with everything that they said, because they were viewing it very strictly from the 2D perspective. And Oscar was showing me, well, they're missing the fact that we are experiencing this in a 3D realm. So he kind of distilled the information and built up on it. So in this video, it was made in the beginning of 2019. They talked about how a big event was going to happen and that it was going to unify every single ring. So if we recognize that COVID impacted every kind of person, COVID didn't care who you were. Mm-hmm. It was coming, it was moving through. So any questions with that?
No, I'm there. I'm with you. Okay. Oh, we got to take a break. I was so with you. Yeah. I didn't realize where the time was. Okay, we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and Prithvika is my collection of consciously created crystal and nature-forged jewelry. Prithvika translates to of the earth in Hindi, which represents the natural earth-made materials I'm working with, along with my personal ancestry and grounded energy. Each piece is created through ceremony and science, and completed with being Reiki charged. I'm currently featuring copper mirror necklaces, which can be used for protection and mirror magic. My intention is for your new piece of jewelry to feel like an extension of self, to help bring your desires to fruition and to amplify the magic within you. My Instagram is @Prithvika, and my website is prithvika.com. That's PRTHVEEKA.com.
Okay, keep going. We were to the ripple of COVID going through the world.
Yeah. Okay.
And you wanted to say that don't be offended by what's coming up next. Don't do any freakouts. So I'm going to let you say that.
Oh, yeah. And I have no idea. I think it was just in general asking people to bear with me because this information is still new to me. So,
and you wanted to tell them what YouTube to look at.
Oh, yeah. So in the previous, before we took the break, did I speak on where I got this information?
Just from a YouTube video that you didn't, that Oscar was telling you to click on. And just by the way, nothing has been, I don't think anything has anything that anybody would get bent out of shape yet. I think everything you're doing is great.
Okay, cool. That makes me happy. So yeah, the video that kind of lays all of this out, and you can tell whoever created it put so much work into it, but where I disagree with them is the notion that the space that we're in is truly flat. I think that they're disregarding the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th dimensions.
You know,
which
I'm so sorry. There's I had a flat earth guy on, and it was the only video or the only podcast that people really kind of gave me shit about, which is interesting because there's so many other things they could be offended by. And I am wondering, as you're saying this, if flat earth, exactly what you're saying, is a misinterpretation of a ring, like the rings you're talking about.
Yeah, and that is what this video, it's called, if you look it up on Google, I don't think it's on YouTube anymore. I think they took it down. It's Universal Disclosure, all one word, and you can capitalize the D in disclosure. And they're making a bit of a play on words because they're talking about these realms as being discs. Yeah, but they break it down. They show you the clock. They show you how time is cyclical. They bring in the seasons, the minutes, the seconds, the years, the ages, the zodiacs. They bring everything in. And while they do it, they really show you the oscillations of each realm's sun and moon. Okay. And the way that they will come into alignment every now and then that kind of illusion of separateness drops. And I think COVID was that ripple effect of the illusion of separation dropping. And then because there are, I think, people that are aware of this, so anyone sitting in the golden age would probably be aware of this. So when we think about the Lumerian aspect, sitting in the golden age and falling to the iron age, and the Hyperboreans being in the golden age, moving into another golden age, those would be the beings that have the highest conscious awareness. So within the genetic coding, and this is, again, is not pointing to skin color. It's just simply not anymore because of the way that we've evolved. So if you were to shift and do a lot of work on yourself and drop a lot of the aspects of the Atlantean or the Aryan realm that you were carrying within your consciousness, you would be kind of able to shift yourself towards your own golden state of consciousness. So
so in other words, sort of on that energetic level, it really doesn't matter what color you are, you can actually change it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in the 3D world. We're not saying racism doesn't exist or anything like that. We're saying in your evolution.
Exactly. And man, this is, don't mind me while I Google again so that I don't get things wrong. Okay. But do you have any? I'll just look it up. Okay. So
I looked up there is a lot of universal disclosure videos. Was it in English or another?
It's in English. So it is done by, one second, I will find it here. It is done by, it's playing. It's done by We Act. Okay. If you look up Martin Kenny, Universal Disclosure, it's called The Most Interesting Video on Earth. They're really promoting themselves. That's a good marketing team.
That's it, like Anonymous. I like what Anonymous does, but everything is so extreme. Yes, gonna change. You can't unsee this.
So extreme. So extreme. So let me see if we can get in here. Give me the planets. So I'm just so I'm not misspeaking again. I'm trying to remember how the planets align with the chakras.
Oh.
Here we go. Is this one going to give it to me?
I just did a thing in the Patreon about all 10 chakras. It's 10, right? How many planets are there? 12?
Planets. Aren't there 9?
Are there 9? Maybe there's 9 chakras. Whatever, I just did a thing on it. And also, Amy Spicer and I were talking about they're adding chakras. Chakras are being added. Maybe that is also part of moving through these rings.
Of course. Okay, here we go. We've got it. So, beautiful. We've got it. So, I just repeated myself. Our root chakra is associated with Mars. Our sacral chakra is Venus. Our solar plexus chakra is the sun. Heart chakra is the moon. Our throat chakra is Mercury. the third eye is Saturn, and the crown chakra is Jupiter. So now if we allow ourselves to kind of back up and think about how many of these realms are we standing in terms of our fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional self. So when we kind of expand out of the physical reality and we move up and we're aware that all of these different realms exist, all of these different ages are happening at once, then if we are kind of fully embodying each of these energy centers, we're going to have an awareness of all of it and an understanding of all of it.
Okay, so that was sort of now that everyone has the knowledge, it's not a far trip to all awareness. And is that the awareness we want, to wake up and change things?
Yeah, so wake up and change things, or wake up and realize where you are. Because if you know exactly where you are and why this experience is happening and unfolding, you have less of a desire to change it and more of a desire to just not add any more suffering.
Oh.
Because if we think of these rings again, we're going to notice that there are a lot of similarities within these rings and a lot of different cultural expressions. Like if we look at the Aztec and Mayan calendar, we're going to really notice this system that I'm talking about showing up extremely predominantly, right? The Doomsday 2012, the end of the world. Yeah, it was, in terms of that epoch happening, that apocalypse happening, our shift from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, all of those planets aligning. So it's not even just the shift from Pisces into Aquarius, but the fact that all of those planets aligned and the field dropped, the veil dropped. So we can think of the apocalypse as a lifting of the veil or a dropping of the veil. We went through an apocalypse.
That's what Jessa always says, we all died.
Yeah, so we all died in terms of who and what we thought we were and all the constructs that we held really tightly. So I did not have a physical death. I think I would have witnessed that, but there was a death of the constructs. And maybe not for everyone, because if you were slipping from a gold age into a bronze age, you might not have experienced it like that. But if you have, like a lot of people in China are having right now, all of your rights stripped away from you, and how even certain people within that country there's a genocide happening, you're literally being killed. So that is an aspect of the occurrence that's happening. But if we want to play with it in a really fun way, we can look at these rings in this consecutive circle, also representing the Dharma wheel of life. So within the Dharmic wheel of life, we have these different realms. We've got the God realm, think Golden Age. You've got the jealous God realm. We've got the animal realm. We've got the hungry ghost realm. We've got the hell realm. We've got the human realm. All of these realms are kind of moving and shifting all the time. So within that Dharmic wheel of life, the idea of awakening to who and what you are, awakening to samsara, awakening to recognizing that you are always in the bardo. The bardo isn't a place you go after you die and move through things until you're reborn, because the same space between death and rebirth, it's the same liminal space between birth and re-death. So awakening and recognizing that at your deepest nature, you're the field experiencing a being. You're the field experiencing the nature of being, that it's completely safe, that you're just here having experiences. Then your notion that you should change and impact it will be decreased, because with that enlightened awareness, you recognize that it's all happening for a reason. Right. That doesn't make it okay, and that doesn't mean that we ignore what's happening in Iran right now. We don't ignore it. We become aware of it. We have compassion. We do what we can to decrease the suffering of other beings, and that is Buddha nature. And if we really listen to what the Buddha was saying, what Jesus was saying, what all of these prophets that emerge were saying, it's that you are them. They aren't some prophet. They were trying to call people into the awareness that they had cultivated through all of the work and effort to undo the conditioning.
That was actually, that's a perfect, it's not only a perfect place to land in this podcast, but I was literally going to ask this question, because there's a larger, I hope I'm not interrupting any of your flow here. there's
you're good.
I've grown out of this. Somebody told me they were getting a reading where someone was going to tell them their life purpose. And I have grown out of that phrase because I don't think it's one thing. And I actually think if it is a purpose, the purpose is to better ourselves, which betters our world. Okay. Mm-hmm. But again, not to, I want to say not to help others or to help relieve other people. That's the, yes, that's a really interesting conversation. We are here to sort of, if we help others, we also help ourselves. So if we help ourselves, we also help others. Correct? Did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And recognizing the other as self is not a bad thing. But if there is one lesson I have learned this year over and over and over and over again, which has been nothing but painful, painful awakening. I'm so proud of the ground that I've learned to stand on in terms of everything I went through this year, because it was brutal. But one thing I've learned, and this is why that striving to fix the world or change it, you cannot complete someone else's karma for them.
Right.
You can't. And if you try to carry it and hold it, you're actually stopping them from moving through it.
So where do you see the line? Is the line in that doing what you're capable of? So let me give you an example. So yes, the women in Iran or the people in Iran, which is really, it's so hard to figure out how this is going to be the problem in the United States is I'm ready for full revolution. But we don't know what that looks like. Everybody's not ready. We don't know what happens if and I don't mean like January 6th revolution. I mean like vote out everyone. Start at the beginning. Everyone. Fire everyone. Put in new people, which is even kind of scary. But that's where I feel like we are. So in other words, if someone was raising money for people in Iran, I can give money to that. That's helping. Because I asked someone online, I was like, how do we help? And they were like, just spread the videos. And I was like, well, that sounds like first world help. That doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, is there anything we can really do? And she was like, no. And that's almost an example of their karma or their country. And now if I was to say to you, I'm flying to England and then going to Iran to help, you'd be like, whoa, that's over the line, right? Right? That's where I'm messing with their karma and just being stupid about mine.
Oscar is showing that, it's funny. He said, not necessarily. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong if that was the way you chose to show up and be of service. Cool. He's laughing in my head and he's saying, as long as you don't make it all about you. If you're doing that to prove that you are good and you are aware and you are a warrior for the people, like if you're doing this for egoic reasons, you're immediately going to get tripped up over your own karma. Okay. So the idea of getting out of your own way and choosing to be of service, that's very different. But when we look at what's happening in Iran, we really do want to remember what I was just saying about the Atlantean people. Yeah, the Atlantean people are moving from, oh my God, I've lost the page. See, I wrote it. I wish you could see the pages that I scattered notes around because it is absolutely insane.
I bet it's artwork and you should just put it on the wall.
Yes, if you want to be confused of whether or not a truck driver or a doctor wrote this, we could put it on the wall. It's abstract art. So, so the Atlanteans, the Indo-Asians, so we're looking at Iran, they're moving from their iron to their bronze. So there is an awakening happening. There's an awakening happening. So all of this is kind of following that natural suit. And that awakening is happening over 2,000 years.
Wow.
2,000 years. So we really want to remember that these shifts in time, they literally take time. They take a lot of time. So, so for the Aryan, what I'm happy about with the Aryan in terms of colonial, we could just call them white people, colonial white people, thinking about the war happening with Ukraine and Russia, all of that happening up there. They're moving from their iron to their silver. So they're also awakening. And one of the reasons why spreading those videos might seem like it's doing nothing, the age of information and the age of awareness is very important.
Okay.
So imagine if this was happening and we didn't have the internet.
Right. You said they're going from iron to silver. Are they jumping over bronze?
Oh, maybe they're going from iron to bronze. Let me find.
Okay.
I tried to just say it because I lost my page. Bronze to silver.
Okay.
They're going from bronze to silver. Yeah. So, and when we look at, we can also bring in. Are we out of time?
No, we got about 5 minutes.
Okay. So there's another aspect of this I wanted to bring in from the culture that I really, again, had the absolute honor and privilege of sitting with and learning from, is the notion of the eagle condor prophecy. And I think that prophecy kind of erupted within the indigenous cultures of South America and North America about 500 years ago. And within that prophecy, it was saying that the eagle and the condor have been at war. So the eagle representing people that are very of their mind, people very mind driven. So we're going to look at people that are really hanging out around Jupiter and Saturn. And then we're going to look at the heart-led people being the condor people that are very connected to the earth, the indigenous wisdom, the wisdom keepers, people that actually understand the nature of the reality that we're in much better than the mind-led people. So the prophecy is that a time will come, which is right now, that the eagle and the condor have an opportunity, not that it's going to happen, but they have an opportunity to learn to fly in harmony together and merge, where they bring the heart and the mind together. So that's the opportunity that we have within the age of Aquarius.
Oh, I hope it's going to happen. I really do.
Yeah. So just knowing that, like, it's pretty much all set up, and that doesn't mean that every sector of the physical reality is going to have that experience play out in some wonderful angelic way. It's going to be bumpy. There's going to be things going on, but the potential and the momentum is there. So letting your individual self kind of come into service, get out of your own way. If you need to choose a lane to be of service to, so you're not overwhelmed, just choose your lane. If it ends up not being the lane for you, you don't have to dedicate yourself to something that's really difficult for your system. Pick another lane, but you don't have to be in all of the lanes. You're going to exhaust your energy if you're in all the lanes. You're caring about every single problem.
Yeah.
Pick a lane. Dedicate yourself to some service, and that could be planting plants that bees like. You don't have to necessarily be working in with the humans. If that's too much for you, that's okay. If you want to plant trees, beautiful. If you want to dedicate your life to working with people with addictions, beautiful. If you want to dedicate yourself to making people laugh and becoming a comedian, amazing. What I seem to be doing is helping, on the individual and possibly larger scale, people come into this alignment that we were talking about within the chakras, of being able to stand in all of the full awareness and recognizing that that is your birthright to have that.
And you
to
are
have that within yourself.
You are so great at what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And one last thing around the indigenous culture that I got to work with down in Colombia. I was speaking with one of the facilitators on a podcast I recorded with him. And I was asking him, how does he deal, or how do the elders deal with other people of their culture, or maybe white people coming down, or they don't have to be white, but Westerners coming down, colonizers coming down and trying to use that medicine to make money. And they're using this medicine, some of the people, to do horrible things to other people. And I was like, how do they deal with this? What do they think about it? And he was like, you know what? The whole idea behind everything that they do is the recognition that they're only responsible for what's happening in their energy field.
Yeah.
So they let that go. They understand that that's happening for a reason. That's that person's path. That's their karma. They don't take it personally. They protect themselves. They have their boundaries, and they maintain their energy, and they're of service. That's all we can really do.
That is all we can really do. Yeah, I have to get that. I have to get that under control of the. You know what else I think is happening? Two things. First of all, there's something going on where I totally understood and followed you this whole podcast, but sometimes there's things I don't follow, yet the information is getting in. Do you know what I mean by that? There's like a different set of learning going on here where there's this one woman that I listen to her podcast and it makes no sense. And then when she's done, I'm like, I know exactly what happened. I don't know.
I feel like that's how I felt with Jessa's podcast when I first stumbled upon it, because I was so mired down. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, what is she talking about? And I'd be like, oh, wait, I understand. Damn.
Right. And I feel like with I am transforming. Something happened. I'll call you some other time and tell you the story. And so to transform, whatever my transformation is, it is making me extremely sensitive. Not that I wasn't, and this stuff wouldn't bother me before, but it's making extremely, extremely sensitive. And there's sort of this story of you better sort out exactly what Jessica just said.
Yeah. And I mean, take your time with it, because I'm still sorting it out. So no rush. I think that this is a massive lesson and a massive shift in perspective. And again, I'm not telling anyone this is the way you need to see reality. We live in creativity expressing itself in ecstatic states. So whatever way you view reality is perfectly fine. This just seems to be one that has very precise recognition throughout many, many lineages that have existed throughout a lot of different wisdom cultures, throughout a lot of blatantly science.
Yeah.
So
I love you, my friend.
I love you too. This was so much fun. I'm so glad that it was at all comprehensible.
It was great. And now tell everyone where they can find you.
Okay. So you can find me at my Instagram at zen.lasagna or at aquasoul.ca. I finally have a website.
Yay!
So yeah, that is AEQUISOL.com. And I just want to put in a footnote, it is perfectly okay with me if you do not want to sit and do a 15-minute consult, but I really do prefer, before I work with people for the first time, that we just have a little bit of a meet and talk. Because there are things where I might recommend you go speak with someone else that will be able to help you with it more so than I will. So if you are working with me for the first time, please do a consult. It's right there on the book a consult right at the front of the page. So that's just my request for anyone if they're wanting to show up. What I do is embodiment work. I do past life regression. I can do dream interpretation. I also have a fun option on there because I always use my cards. So if you just want a short reading, we can do that too.
Yay. And I always love the sessions I have with you so much. So, thank you for all that information, folks. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Please sign up for the Patreon. I'm just going to keep pushing the Patreon. It seems to sit at the same number. And I'm like, I'm working so hard and I want to just have that going. Now I'm begging people. That's ridiculous. All right, everybody. Thanks. We will see you next week.
Paranormal Karen, she's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen, she's an angel without wings. Comedian, ghost hunter, conscious exploring. She's a funny gal and a real woo pal. She's Paranormal Karen.